Thanks for listening to Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast, keeping you up to date with the latest in American soccer. And don't forget to subscribe.
Hello everybody and welcome to this edition of Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast. It's the usual gang. Jake Watroba in Minnesota, Armand Kafai down in Texas, and I'm Steven Jordan here in Wisconsin. Give us a follow on Twitter, Uncle Sam's Soccer Pod. Hashtag nap games. Armand Kafai, tell us your top tips for napping during soccer games.
Well, first off, make sure it's a really boring game because you don't want to miss out on anything. Secondly, make sure you're seated in your bed. And your TV, you can still see it while you're on the bed, and then just lie back and relax. And then the rest of it just comes naturally. If you are intrigued by the game, you will not fall asleep. But if it's boring, you're just going to fall asleep. So good games to watch. That Portland-Seattle game is a great game to nap through. 10 out of 10. And there's a couple more. I remember last time, I think last year, there was like FC Dallas SKC game that was just boring, and I basically fell asleep through that one in the press box. That was really tough.
Do the press boxes have pillows for you?
Honestly, I wish, because sometimes I'm just like, damn, this game is really boring. But you have a job to do, so I'm blessed to be in that position. So I don't nap in games on the press box, but when I'm at home, I definitely consider putting on an MLS game, just falling asleep, because a lot of some MLS games are brutal to watch. So I would rather sleep through them than actually watch them.
Yeah, Jake, how's it going? You started playing FIFA again.
Yeah, I got on FIFA yesterday for the first time in what seemed like forever, and I was instantly reminded why I got off FIFA.
Which is?
A combination of things. I'm terrible at it. You ask Armand. Armand can give a testimonial on how bad my defending is in FIFA.
All you have to do is give and go with Ibrahimovic, and it's a goal.
Yeah, I got murdered by Ibra a few times this morning. So it's just the gameplay kind of is just bad, I think, this year compared to other years. So I guess that's the update with me. A lot of interesting things. I did not, to follow up with what Armand said a few minutes ago, did not fall asleep during yesterday's U.S. men's national team match against Ireland.
Well, that's good, because that's what we're going to be talking about. Get Roger Gonzalez, CBS Sports. He'll be joining us. We will also be talking MLS U.S. Open Cup with Michael Lewis from FrontRowSoccer.com. The counterattack with Jake Watroba returns. All right, boys. U.S. men's national team, 2 games in the span of a week. I could assume that we can take 0 takeaways.
I actually do have a takeaway.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
That was a bunch of words.
That's like Inception.
Yeah, it is. These games suck for MLS teams, especially with the Red Bulls. I mean, they had 2 of their best players out, and they lost against Revolution, and it was, a quote-unquote meaningless friendly? It really sucks for MLS sides. And
do the players have a say, or do the clubs have a say on whether or not the player?
I'm sure the clubs have a say, because remember FC Dallas said, "Hey, we don't want our players going to the men's national team camp because of the CCL game." I'm sure if a team was like, "Hey, we have a really important game," we don't want you to call.
But isn't that a league issue though?
What do you mean?
But shouldn't a league mandate, or shouldn't a league just realize their friendlies going on, maybe not schedule games?
Well, don't teams have the option to do that?
Well, no, but the league has given clubs a certain, they basically have given the clubs all the FIFA windows, and they said pick a couple that you don't want to play through. We'll give you those off, but you have to play through a couple. MLS could not give every club off during the FIFA windows because their schedule gets too crammed. But that speaks to the lack of depth MLS allows its clubs to have, and the lack of lower division soccer to pull up or call up like a U23 team, for example, where you put in a bunch of youngsters in a U.S. Open Cup game and not, risk the injuries of your star players or just give them rest. I mean, we see it all the time with the big clubs in Europe where they play a crappier team, they rest some players, or you'll see Ronaldo play for 45 minutes versus the 90.
No, yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic that MLS teams have to deal with. But I mean, it does. I think it's really unfortunate because the Red Bulls lost against Revolution. I'm sure with Tyler Adams and Tim Parker, it might have been a little bit different. But I mean, I guess another takeaway I have to say is I think Weston McKennie is legit. I don't know about you guys, but we talked about on our last show Wednesday. I think Weston McKennie is one player that's definitely going to be part of the U.S. setup when they try to qualify for 2022. Jake, what do you think?
No, I agree, and to build upon that, I think a central midfield with Weston McKennie and Tyler Adams is going to be one of the best in CONCACAF, actually.
There's not much in CONCACAF to go up against.
No, but if it's, I mean,
I'm just saying,
better than Costa Rica or better than Mexico, that's still, I mean, those aren't bad teams in terms of
Costa Rica
the rest
will
of the
be
world.
old. Costa Rica will be old next.
Well, they're better than us. I'll tell you that.
No, you're right. Costa Rica at the moment is better. They qualified for the World Cup, but come on, in 2 years' time, could you name me the midfielders for Costa Rica?
Probably not, but I mean, it's still, I don't know, it's still something. It's still, being the best in your region is still something to hang your hat on.
But it's CONCACAF, for God's sakes.
All right, do you want me to say they're the best in the world? Do you want me to lie to you?
No,
quick?
I'm not. I'm just saying, let's not get carried away when Jake says, yeah, they're going to be great in the region. This is not UEFA or CONMEBOL or even,
They're not bad teams, though.
They're not bad teams,
You're acting like the
Costa Rica team didn't go to the quarterfinals in 2014.
Yeah, you're acting like the U.S. is playing against Qatar.
Don't jinx it now. I bet we're gonna lose Qatar in 2022.
I mean, CONCACAF is not. It's not Asia. They're not playing.
No,
Thailand.
You're right. I'm not saying the
Vietnam
U.S. is poor. I'm not saying Costa Rica is bad. But I'm saying put in perspective. This is not like we thought the U.S. was top 3 a year ago in CONCACAF. 1 year ago, I would have said, yeah, the U.S. is probably a top 3 team. They've had some bad results, but when you look at talent across the board, you put them in the top 3. If you rank the players 1 through, I guess, 50, if you want to throw in all the Hispanics, the Costa Ricans, the Hondurans, the Americans, the Canadians, I guarantee you'd have 23 be Americans and another 23 be Mexico. If you were to rank the top 100, you'd have a full squad of both Americans and Mexicans before you'd have any other complete squad from another nation.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I still think the U.S. is the 3rd best team in the region, even after not qualifying for the World Cup.
What were you going to say about the center mid spot, Jake? Let's get back to that.
I just think they're just gonna be. It's just looking like it's gonna be a very solid midfield for the next, I don't know, 8 to 12 years.
I would definitely say. I definitely agree. In the next 8 to 10 years, I think we're set. Here's my question: is some older players like Nagby who've been around, do they have a future? Even Kellen Acosta, I wonder if he has a future with this U.S. men's national team because he's coming to the age where he either stays in MLS or he tries to make a move to Europe. But making the move to Europe is a huge gamble because he's going to be 23.
He kind of has to make that jump now, doesn't he?
It looks
like Tyler Adams is going to make the jump to Europe. McKennie's already in Europe.
Pulisic's in Europe. All the defenders are in Europe.
Keaton Parks is in Europe. I mean, a lot of the guys who are going to make up that midfield are already in Europe. So staying in MLS isn't going to do Kellen Acosta any favors. And
what about
you could
Nagby?
argue when we were talking about I don't think Nagby's part of the future at all anymore. To be honest with you, unless he's part of those Gold Cup B squads that the U.S. rolls out every every 2 years, every 4 years, whatever. But you just look at the midfield and Kellyn Acosta stayed in MLS because of the World Cup cycle, and you heard rumors that he wanted to kind of leave.
But he still wants to. He had an interview with ESPN Boot Room or whatever it's called, and he talked about making the move to Europe, and that's still the ambition. I wonder personally if I were his agent, I would, or sit there, if I were his mentor, I'd be like, we have to make the right decision to Europe because you could easily get sucked under and not have regular playing minutes. In MLS, it's a guarantee. He could still be a star for the U.S. men's national team. He just needs to perform well with FC Dallas like we saw at the beginning of last season.
Man, I don't know if he could be the starter.
For the U.S. men's national team?
Man, the way Tyler Adams has been playing, I just, like Jake said, that McKennie-Adams midfield is starting to look really good. And let's not get ahead of ourselves. Those guys are like 19, 20. They're still relatively young.
But don't forget, Pulisic is going to play the 10, which is in the middle of the park. I don't want him on the wing like Bruce Arena played.
But I think Pulisic's a given. I think Pulisic's a given at that point.
Right, no, he is a given. But the link up between those three, because Tyler Adams is quite creative. McKennie needs to be that destroyer. He needs to be that physical presence. No, I don't think he needs to be this destroyer. It depends on what formation you're running. Sarachan really likes this 4-1-4-1 little look. McKennie, I think one of our followers pointed out that he's better as a box-to-box midfielder. I think McKennie can be that destroyer, but I don't think he needs to be. I think there are plays the destroyer role. Does Michael Bradley have a future in this next World Cup qualifying?
Oh God, no, please.
I would say he does.
I mean, you need some leadership. You need a veteran.
You can't go a team that's like, oh, U23 going into the World Cup. I think Bradley can play a role, and the thing that I noticed is when Kellyn Acosta was next to Bradley and he was focused on defensive responsibilities and just controlling that part of pitch, he was much better off. Giving him less of a role, I think is much better than the role that he had, of like, oh, I have to do this. If you put a McKennie or a Tyler Adams next to him, I think you make him a lot better by reducing the amount of responsibilities that he has. And how old is Michael Bradley right now? Like 28? Something like that?
I don't know.
Yeah, so by the time it would be like 32, 33, that's not extremely old for someone to play in the World Cup. And you need someone like that.
You do, absolutely. Let's we're gonna get Roger Gonzalez of CBS Sports gonna join us. We're gonna talk some more U.S. men's national team, get his thoughts on the two friendlies. Alrighty, on the line with us is Roger Gonzalez of CBS Sports. You can follow him at rgonzalezcbs. Get his thoughts on the U.S. men's national team. Roger, how's it going?
Going great. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Jake, you wanted to correct something Armand said before we get into this U.S. men's national team and the two friendlies.
Yeah, we mentioned before Roger joined that, or Armand mentioned that Michael Bradley was 28 years old. He will actually be 31 years old at the end of July, so a bit older than Armand thought. So
yeah, but Roger, two friendlies in the span of a week, a bunch of kids out there. What are your thoughts on this national team?
Yeah, with friendlies, I'm the first person to tell you that I could care less about what the result is. That's not important at all. It doesn't matter who you're playing. I mean, sure, you want to win a match, and that's fine, but there's so many more important things to look at. I think, something that kind of concerns me sometimes with the U.S. soccer fan base, we have so many sports in this country, and oftentimes we jump to these conclusions where, the U.S. beats Bolivia and looks really sharp earlier in the week, and man, things are on the upswing. And then, a loss at Ireland. Ireland's not supposed to be that good. They've got a lot of older guys, not the most talented team, and we're back to square one. And it's none of those are the right ways to look at it. I think with Bolivia and Ireland, it's all about getting these young guys lots of minutes, and we've seen plenty of them get opportunities, guys who are going to be building blocks for the future. So I think it's great to see these guys on the field, get that chemistry, give some time off to these more senior players that were, more of a, part of the World Cup qualifying campaign, and just see what's coming up the pipeline. And I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited, but there's also, but we have to kind of remain calm and patient and realize it's a process, and it's one that's going to take a while to get back on track.
Roger, what is one of the reasons why we should be excited? Is there any player that stood out in any of the two matches that you saw?
Yeah, well, one that I've really become a big fan of is Weston McKennie. I spent some time speaking with him before the games, and he's a guy who really kind of came out of nowhere when he went to Germany. Didn't expect to get over 20 appearances like he did this past season, and I mean he's become a rock in the middle of that field for a team that's going to be in the Champions League this season, for a team that finished second in the Bundesliga. So he's just someone who, you look at him, he looks like, he is young, he's a teenager, he plays like he's older, he's just really wise. I was talking to Christian Pulisic about him, and he said just playing against Weston is just annoying. He's one of those guys who, he's not afraid to get dirty, he's not afraid to hit you, he's not afraid to, to provide a little pain, and that's something that's really needed for every team when it comes to being defensive in the midfield. So he's somebody I think who could have a major impact for this national team moving forward. I think if you're good enough to start with Schalke and you're doing such a good job there, I think you should be starting for your national team. So he's somebody that, along with Pulisic, I would plug in with in every game. And I'm probably, I'm in the minority with that, but I just think he's a special player and has a lot of ability. And it's interesting to see his role because at Schalke he plays more of defensive midfielder, sits back a bit. He's got some world-class players around him to go forward. But he told me with the U.S., he wants to be able to be that box-to-box midfielder and contribute both ways. He had a decent little chance against Ireland, had a nice little touch inside the box to set himself up, and so he's got potential to help on both ends of the field.
Roger, earlier in the show, we were discussing the pairing of McKennie and Tyler Adams in the midfield. How do you think those two, their projection in the future, how do you think that they project with this U.S. squad? Do they look like they might be maybe they could be part of maybe the best midfield in CONCACAF over the next 8 to 10 years or so?
Yeah, I think there's certainly a lot of potential between those two. I mean, you think of a midfield with McKennie, Adams, and even if Pulisic comes back a bit into more of an attacking midfield or more on the wing. It's just a lot of young talent to foster into the future. And I think, a lot of it's going to depend what happens, after the summer when the U.S. hires a new coach. We have to see what kind of coach comes in, what kind of system they're looking for. Is it someone like Bruce Arena who relied on those veterans, those older players who, in my opinion, had no business playing, or guys who, are younger, who are ambitious, who have shown that, they have quality in Europe and in MLS and can make an impact on the international level? I think, there's always going to be times where, you've got, especially now with the U.S. moving forward, I mean, there's some really good talent coming up in the midfield. And I think you'll see each of these guys, get a lot of opportunities, and we'll have to see if there's there's an opportunity for them to play together. I think, going forward in the short term, obviously, having two really young guys leading the midfield, there's obviously to be a bit more experience there, but you look down the road and see what these guys can be when it comes to potentially the next World Cup. And yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons to get excited that the U.S. should be, back on track and towards the top of CONCACAF.
Roger, what about the players that made their debuts, especially the ones against Bolivia? Was there one that stood out in your eyes?
Well, I think, Tim Weah and Josh Sargent are two guys who obviously get a lot of headlines and rightfully so. I mean, when you have your teenage players and you're at Werder Bremen and PSG, I think that says enough right there. But Josh Sargent, man, watching him play, I mean, he doesn't play like a teenager, kind of like Weston. He's not, he just looks like he's been doing it forever, and he's just so smart. He uses his body well. He can, play with his back to the goal. And you saw what he did against Bolivia, being so attentive to steal the ball and score the goal with that fantastic touch. So really, I mean, I think he's someone who, despite being so young and not having, any professional appearances for Bremen yet. Really, though, I think he's someone who deserves plenty of chances, at least the opportunity to be with this team moving forward. I know he's young, and there's other guys like Jordan Morris and so on, but I just think he's really got the chance to be a special player. And Weah, I mean, obviously, he's got the bloodlines. His dad, one of the greatest African players I've ever seen, an amazing player, not just for an African team, but in world soccer, just an incredible player. And for him to be at PSG and to be around guys, obviously like Neymar, Mbappe, Di Maria, guys he can learn from, I think that's an invaluable tool, especially with PSG having a new coach as well. And I think for him, he's got the speed, he's got the creativity. He had some good looks. He had a nice touch against Ireland with his chest to go around the defender. He's got some good flashes. I still think he looked a bit nervous. Took a couple of his chances poorly. They could have made a big impact on that match. But those are two guys that I think, when you think about them and the guys we spoke about earlier, I mean, I think this is potentially building towards a team that maybe in a few years, maybe a little bit more than that, could possibly once again surpass Mexico as the top team in CONCACAF.
Now, Roger, they're friendlies. I expect them to get walloped by France here in about a week. But were there any disappointments or concerns that you saw from any of the players that did get called up or their performances? I know the defense looked bad. Bill Hamid didn't look whatsoever good in goal. But can we take any away from that?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Bill wasn't that sharp. I don't think DeAndre Yedlin looked that great either. Matt Miazga had a few moments. But I think, like you said, they're friendlies. And, I'm always a firm believer in going up against better competition makes you better. I think that's a reason we've seen some of these guys in Europe become so good, like Pulisic, when you're playing against guys like Marco Reus and other players in practice. You're only going to get better. And so, while this France game, I mean, you'll think this is, the A France team against, what seems like, the junior national team to an extent. It could get pretty ugly. It could be one of those 6-0 matches. Hopefully it won't be. Hopefully we'll see a bit more from the Americans. But I just think in the end, though, it's going to be a great opportunity for them to be there and to play against some of the top talent in the world. See it as France's World Cup send-off and make them hungry to help and not have the U.S. experience what they experienced late last year ever again.
Now, Roger, what about the national team head coach? I saw a rumor that Louis Van Gaal is linked with the position. A lot of names have been floated out there, but what can the coach tell these players going forward if we don't even know if that head coach is going to be there? What can the players take away from that experience?
Yeah, it's tough. I think they kind of feel maybe they're in the middle of this, this massive transition period and really don't know what's going on. But I think these young guys, the ones that I've spoken to, they're just really grateful for Dave and for the opportunities he's given to these young players to show what they can do. And it looks like Ernie Stewart's going to be coming on as the GM, and he'll be tasked with finding a head coach. I expect them to hire a coach pretty shortly after the World Cup. We'll see who's available. I think for Van Gaal, that would obviously for me make zero sense. I think you'll see guys like Juan Carlos Osorio potentially if he's available. He's obviously coached in the United States. But I think, it's going to be so important to find the right guy and really find someone who understands these young players, because I think they've certainly earned the right to be a part of this team, at least some of them, to mix in with these veterans. And that's where, for me, I think it's going to be interesting to see if in the end maybe somebody like Tab Ramos gets this job, because he knows these young guys so well. But I think it makes sense for the older guys, knowing that they're not in the team right now, and the U.S. looking towards the future. And these young guys are just hungry, and they're excited for these opportunities and just trying to make the best of it. And I think that's certainly something that will help the team moving forward.
Roger, is there a chance that the U.S. retains Dave Sarachan as their head coach? I mean, I've seen some optimism around here, and I saw it too. I was like, hey, this is how you end up with this guy as your head coach. Is there a chance that USSF's maybe like, we like what's going on, let's just keep Sarachan on board?
I think there's always a chance that could happen, but I don't think it's very likely. I've spoken to some people at U.S. Soccer, and really they've just said that, everyone's been really impressed with what Dave has been able to do and keeping things together after qualifying, because it's certainly a tough interim position to take. And so while I think he's obviously a guy who has some experience as a head coach, back with the Chicago Fire, worked under Bruce Arena for quite a long time, even back to his University of Virginia days. And so, I think while Dave has done a really nice job keeping it together and giving these young guys some looks, I don't think in the end he'll be a strong contender to keep the job. I think he would be interested in listening, but I don't think with what we've seen overall in the short period of time and given how important this next cycle is when it comes to Olympic qualifying and everything as well, I don't think he'll be the man to get the job in the end.
Roger, last question. Do you think the coach is going to be a European-based coach, or is he going to be an American? It seems like the USSF likes to go back and forth.
Yeah, I've been thinking a bit about this. Just before I came on, I was thinking, who were some people out there? And I think, like we said with Juan Carlos Osorio, just talking, outside of the U.S. and even, potentially there's a guy, like Slaven Bilic, who was at West Ham, who's got experience as the Croatian national team manager, a guy who has proven to be a pretty good coach in the past, but had a rough spell with the Hammers a couple seasons back. But I have a feeling that it would be Tab Ramos or someone internationally. I think, with Tab, him and Ernie played 2 World Cups together. I think there's a bit of a relationship there. Makes sense with Tab already being within U.S. Soccer. So it's tough. It's tough to call. It could go either way, and without officially them having an official GM at this point, it's hard to get an idea of what route they may go, and it's going to take quite a bit of time. But I think right now, if I had to pin a favorite, I would probably say it's Tab Ramos.
All right, Roger. Well, we can't thank you enough for all your time here today. Go ahead and plug where we can find your work, your Twitter, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, CBSSports.com. We'll be covering the entire World Cup, the U.S. men's national team moving forward with the head coaching search and everything going on there. And I'm on Twitter at @Gonzalez CBS.
Thanks again, Roger. Take care.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, guys. Let's wrap the discussion with the U.S. men's national team. Talked about the midfield going forward. It looks strong, but I still have a concern that the U.S. board or whatever the decision process, whether the GM is going to do anything, it's going to hire the wrong person.
Dave Sarakan.
But who do
I'm serious, guys. I'm serious. I just have this really odd feeling that the U.S. just might be like, wow, he's really good at nurturing his talent and this young talent. And then all of a sudden, we're stuck with Dave Sarakan as our head coach. Like, he's a great placeholder, but
no, he's not.
Like, dude, he's good for what he does, man. Like,
how hard could it be? I mean, I'm honest.
Exactly.
My honest is what could I mean? You could have a bag of bricks do what he's doing right now because there's no meaning to these games. You literally give a big slap on the ass. Congratulations! Here's your international debut. You bring the bunch of kids up. Woohoo! Slumber party! Yeah! USA! We're gonna play some tough opponents.
Voice is back.
All right, Mickey Mouse, chill out.
We'll play France. You'll get your ass kicked. You go home for summer. By the way, here's another interesting. This is two thoughts that came up. Anybody talking about Jesse Gonzalez anymore? It feels like that void has kind of been filled with all these kids.
You mean not Jesse Gonzalez?
I mean Jonathan Gonzalez.
Because people talk about Jesse Gonzalez in Dallas after his shaky game on Wednesday, but that's a different story.
Yeah, different story.
Yeah, with Jonathan, no. I mean, not really, but I mean, I think it's still an issue that needs to be talked about.
Definitely an issue that needs to be addressed. but nobody's talking about it. And then second point, this was a heavy European based with regards to the call-ups from the players. I wonder what the dynamic is going forward regarding MLS versus Europe, because Bruce Arena relied heavily on MLS-based players. Now that all these kids are in Europe, will the kids, because we saw a ton of the Michael Bradleys, the Clint Dempseys, Josie Altidores, Tim Howard return to the U.S. Now these kids are going to Europe. They're going to have better competition, as Roger said. This is going to be better, but does that put the MLS-based players like a Kellyn Acosta that we mentioned earlier at a disadvantage?
I would say so. I think it absolutely does, because also it depends on your head coach. I saw one tweet. I don't know if it was serious or not, because I can't really detect sarcasm on Twitter. But someone was like, Klinsmann's ideas are finally coming to fruition like 5-6 years later, because he encouraged everyone to go to Europe, right? To go play their best soccer there. And now it looks like the more youngsters we're talking about, the more they're going to Europe, I'd say the only one that we haven't really talked about that hasn't really gone to Europe yet is Tyler Adams, and he's already linked to go to Leipzig at some point.
Yeah, but he's 19, 20. That's when you expect.
Exactly.
But Matt Miazga made that move at 19, 20, 18, whatever the age was. He was young. Nobody. I think at a certain point you have to make the move. If not, you're stuck in MLS. And how good are you? How good are you not? We don't know. Like a Nagby. Some say he's the most overrated. Some say he's the most underrated player in Major League Soccer.
Jake, what do you think?
Well, I don't know. I don't get the vibe that Sarakin's going to be the head coach. I don't know where you're getting that feeling from, Armand.
Sources.
Unnamed sources, right? No, you're definitely right. It's kind of funny that Jurgen's prophecy of we need more players in Europe is kind of coming to fruition 5-6 years later, and he's right. Jurgen was right on a lot of things off the field, but when it came to coaching,
he'd be a good GM.
He would be. Oh, if he was still the technical director,
I don't know why they say Jurgen come be GM.
I think it's probably a pride thing for him, though.
It's a pride thing for USA too. You can't be like, yeah, we fired this guy, but yeah, come back.
Well, who knows?
Jurgen was the right guy, because you're to be calling the shots, if you want to use that phrase, because he did two things. He challenged the players. Getting them to Europe. That he was right. Every player.
He left off Landon Donovan from the 2014 World Cup thing.
That was a great decision.
No, I'm not saying that's a bad move. I'm saying that's what I meant by challenging people. He left off arguably one of the better, if not the best.
He's like the third
best national team.
Here's the thing about the Donovan move, though. If he struck gold with Julian Green, nobody would be complaining about Landon Donovan being left off the 2014 roster. Everyone would go,
but at the time,
look at this. He found this kid at Bayern Munich, got him to switch nationalities to commit to the U.S. and came at the expense of an old Landon Donovan. Well, that would have been a great move. It just didn't work out that way.
Just remember, sorry, Jake, he is the last American to score at a World Cup. Julian Green is.
I thought that was pretty funny when I heard that list. I heard
hashtag Julian Green Redemption Tour.
Yeah,
Yeah, so who knows? We can go on for days talking about the U.S. men's national team in the future we have. But let's get into some MLS chat and the U.S. Open Cup. We'll have Michael Lewis on the line with us here in a moment. Alrighty, time to talk some MLS and U.S. Open Cup. We got Michael Lewis on the line from FrontRowSoccer.com. You can follow him on Twitter at SoccerWriter. Michael, how's it going?
Very well, thank you. A busy weekend here in New York, but I'd rather have it that way than the alternative.
Absolutely. Well, based in New York, you do a lot of coverage of NYCFC and Red Bulls. Both clubs let's talk about the Red Bulls, where they lost two key players because of the national team. then they go to New England, and the Revs under Brad Friedel, who have been an up-and-down team, they walk out with 0 points. What's the make with these Red Bull teams when they do lose their star players?
Yeah, especially two key defensive players. You're talking about Tyler Adams, and we're talking about a teenage player who makes a big difference and a big impact on the Red Bulls, and Tim Parker, who finally got his first international cap yesterday in that 2-1 loss to the Republic of Ireland. That was two big losses for the team. I would like to think if they were in the lineup, the Red Bulls would have cut down on some of the New England scoring opportunities, and I think the Red Bulls could have gotten out of there with, let's say, a 1-1 draw. I mean, Adams, and I think the learning curve is still great for him, but he does so many things well. His energy is seemingly boundless. He's up and down the field. If he makes a mistake, he recovers very, very quickly. Saying that, his vision has gotten so much better on the field, and I think that long-rumored transfer to Red Bull Leipzig is only going to help his overall performance and play. Parker, I don't understand why he had been ignored for so many years by the U.S. national team. Maybe they were comfortable with, when I say they, I'm talking about former coaches Jurgen Klinsmann and Bruce Arena. Maybe they were comfortable with what they had, but Parker brings a physical presence and a pretty good eye, good vision for the game from the central defending spot, central center back spot. So two key losses for the team there, and they're going to be without both those players for their next two games as well, too, in the U.S. Open Cup against NYCFC on Wednesday, and next week's match at home. Away, I'm sorry.
Absolutely. And the other New York side, NYCFC, they've been fighting off the constant rumors around their squad and Patrick Vieira. They won. They beat Orlando 3-0 yesterday. Is there anything you know about the whole Nice to Vieira to Nice thing? Is there anything that any new developments that have come from it? And how is the team coping with that constant chatter of your coach might be gone soon?
I wish I could educate your listeners that there's something new about it. All I know is probably as much as anyone else that there reportedly has been offers made, according to the French sports soccer football publication, L'Equipe, a respected publication. The latest report last week had the deal at 90% done. Vieira has said that no, nothing, not talking to them, that sort of thing. But yet, when players keep hearing the rumors again and again, you just wonder, does that affect them thinking that, oh boy, our coach is going to go? Even if it's not true, I think in the back of their minds, they start thinking that. I don't think they showed it yesterday. There was a pretty solid performance in the second half against Orlando City, but yet if these rumors persist, you just wonder if it might take a wear and tear on the players. I think generally, the mental state of NYCFC, the players on the team, is pretty strong, but you keep hearing rumors. As a friend of mine once said, where there is smoke, there's fire. So you have to wonder, where are these reports from L'Equipe coming from? I don't think they make things up.
Now, Michael, obviously you touched on the players and the mentality going forward with knowing, especially on NYCFC side, knowing that Patrick Vieira could leave. But what about the front office? Are they panicking? Because this is the first time where we're seeing NYCFC have a complete squad and seem to be more built for the playoffs, giving David Villa extra creativity going forward, so he is not the main man and he can at least distribute some of the pressure on the other key players. How is that affecting the front office?
Good question. I don't know. I mean, usually the front office is usually not available for comment. So I don't know if they're panicking or trying to get plan B or plan C there. If indeed the rumors are true that he's going, I think they are looking for someone to replace Vieira. My gut feeling is, and this is just something that I've heard in general, that if he does go, it might be in the off season. You have to remember he does have a contract with NYCFC that runs through December, and yes, any contract can be broken, negotiated, renegotiated, whatever. But I still think Vieira would like to remain with the club through the rest of the season, as he likes to say, to see this project completed. I mean, it would be really good for him if the team could win the Supporter Shield, which is a big deal in Europe since that's how they rate champions there. And in the United States, of course, it's winning MLS Cup. And winning one of two of those things would definitely be that proverbial feather in his cap. Just saying, hey, I won a championship. Winning both would be outstanding. But my gut feeling is, and just some things that I've heard, again, nothing substantial, but I think he'll stay through the season. Like I said, maybe that front office is just in case something happens, they've got a plan B, because losing someone of Vieira's stature, he was talking about a World Cup winner in 1998 with France, a respected player throughout his career. The players like him by and large. They like playing for him. They work hard for him. Regardless who takes his place, Patrick Vieira will be a tough act to follow whenever he leaves the team.
Michael, is there anyone you have pegged as his replacement if he were to leave for France?
I could make up names for you, but no, I don't have anyone at the moment to name. I'd like to think the team would probably go for someone high profile, and what I mean by that is probably a former player who's done well on the field and perhaps off the field, or maybe a pretty decent coach from Europe. But I would be throwing names out there and just guessing right now.
What about the rumors with Jesse Marsch linked with the RB Leipzig gig and the effect that's going to have on Red Bulls?
It might not be as earth-shattering, and what I mean by that is in January of 2017, there were reports about Jesse Marsch going to RB Salzburg and Chris Armas taking over the team. And I think, from what I've heard, if that does come to fruition, whether it's in the regular season or after the season, Chris Armas would move over and take the assistant coach would take over as coach. I think that would be a very smooth transition. From what I've seen and gathered and talked to with Chris, he follows the same philosophy as Jesse Marsch. So, yes, a different personality running the show, but I don't think the system is going to change that much. I think that'll be a much smoother transition as compared to NYCFC, which if you bring in someone from the outside who doesn't know the system, it could be a bit bumpy.
Let's move on, Michael, to the U.S. Open Cup. And you mentioned before the show how much you enjoy watching the early stages. I've actually gone to, I think it was 3 Open Cup matches with the local amateur side here in Dallas that are playing the Dynamo coming up on Wednesday. And I can agree, it's really fun. It's exciting. What do you make of those matchups and those amateur teams getting a chance to play against the top sides? There's no other competition like this in the United States. I know they've got competitions like this in Europe and throughout the world, and that's what makes it so fun, that you could have this small amateur team, a pub team, winning a couple of early round matches against superior competition. Obviously, they're going to eventually meet their match against a professional team, whether it's a USL side or MLS side.
But it's still, a lot of fun to see David slay a couple of Goliaths. Maybe not an MLS Goliath, because that would be very difficult. Myself, I've seen 2 games here in the Open Cup. I got a chance to see the Brooklyn Italians defeat the Cosmos B team. They do play in the same division of the National Premier Soccer League, but Cosmos B has a number of former MLS and NASL and USL players. So they were favored in the match, and Brooklyn won 3-2 on its own turf there in Brooklyn. Fascinating match because it was considered an upset. And I got a chance to see another a match in the opening round. That was the Long Island Rough Riders against the Kingston Stockade. Kingston took a 2-0 lead. And we're talking 2-0 lead early in the second half. Rough Riders came back to equalize, forced extra time. Sorry about that. And the Rough Riders won 6-3 in a wild half hour of extra time. Again, another fun match to watch because of just so many different story telling opportunities there. But again, we've reached the stage now where you're getting the higher professional teams coming on, MLS teams. The upsets will be fewer, if maybe, rarer, or maybe non-existent. But I'm hoping maybe there will be a David out there that will slay a Goliath.
Michael, with the U.S. Open Cup, a lot of these teams are playing for CONCACAF Champions League spots. With you being in New York covering the Red Bulls and NYCFC, do you get the sense that either the teams are prioritizing the U.S. Open Cup at all?
I think that it's something that they like to do. I think the Red Bulls probably have a higher priority on it than NYCFC. Last year, the Red Bulls made a great run through that competition. They reached the final where they lost to Sporting Kansas City. They were already in the CONCACAF Champions League, but it's always more than that. It's just to win a competition like that and get a little extra bonus money here or there. So I think my gut feeling is that Jesse Marsch is going to put more priority over that competition than Patrick Vieira. The thing with NYCFC, you have to remember, you could only play 5 foreigners or have 5 foreigners on your roster at most, and NYCFC usually starts 8 or 9 or even 10 international players. So Vieira's going to have to do some interesting tinkering with his Open Cup roster to get the right mixture of foreigners and U.S. citizens. I'm not saying it's impossible, but he'll have to be creative.
Well, Michael, we really appreciate it giving us insight into what's going on in New York, because those clubs seem to be going through a lot, and there's a lot of rumors swirling both clubs, so it's always fascinating to get the insight. We appreciate it. It's our shameless plug, so please tell us where we can find your writing, where we can follow you on Twitter.
Thank you very much. Yes, I am the editor of FrontRowSoccer.com, covering mostly New York, but we also do national team and international competitions when appropriate. And my Twitter handle is @SoccerWriter. Yes, I managed to get it almost a decade ago, before I guess Twitter became popular. I think a lot of other writers would love to have a handle like that. Or maybe for the right price, I'll sell it. I'm only kidding. I like that handle. I don't think I'm going to sell it right now. But thanks for the opportunity to plug.
Absolutely, Michael. Take care, and we'll hope to have you on future episodes, especially when NYCFC or Red Bulls are up for something big.
Hey, my pleasure. I had a lot of fun being on today.
we talking about?
MLS, boys. Let's continue talking MLS. Armand, FC Dallas. I feel like the national media gives absolutely no crap what's going on in Frisco, Texas, and somehow they have a pretty decent team when you look at the standings, and they got some games in hand.
I mean, they're a good team. I mean, I don't know what else to tell people. I think last year was just a combination of just a bunch of things coming together, just not working out. Pressure from outside, pressure within. I mean, those transfer offers, I think it threw the team off, and now they've come back. They've added, man, Steven, I gotta say, man, you were right about Reto Ziegler, man. He's been a fantastic addition for Dallas. He actually scored yesterday, and he's provided something that Walker Zimmerman didn't have. While Zimmerman, I would say, has the higher potential, Ziegler is the real thing, and he's a real solid player to pair along with Matt Hedges. So I think that makes their backline really good. I mean, Nene Lockoff, where he got injured, was great, and Cannon is finally getting comfortable with going forward and back and knowing what his responsibility is. But I think the main thing is it's the competition that Oscar Pareja loves, and he's really had that in the midfield, with Yoa, with Ja'Cory Hayes, Kellen Acosta, Carlos Guerrezo. I mean, Brandon Cervania is even getting into that rotation, and it's caused each player to play better. Whenever someone messes up, it's kind of tough for them because they need to step it up because their spots can be taken at any moment. So it's one of those things where he's, I think, handled the competition really well, and instead of players being disgruntled and mad, players are just hungry week in and week out.
Yeah, I think FC Dallas is legit. Another team that is flying under the radar, who's kind of up and down, but you can no longer criticize the hiring of Brad Friedel because he's turned the New England Revolution into a good product and a decent outfit, and it's not a game that you can walk into and say, okay, we'll collect a result and we'll go back home. No, you actually have to fight for the points.
You've been waiting for this point in the show, haven't you, Steve?
Yeah,
but here's the thing. I hated that hiring from the beginning. God, I hated that hiring, but I am so excited that New England Revolution made the right decision because at least it takes that factor of, that club is stupid, and it kind of throws it out. It kind of says, look, we know what we're doing up here. We hired the right man. He's getting us results. So eat our results, scoreboard.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing, the club looks like they're not stupid on the field, but off the field, no stadium, playing on apparently the best turf in MLS.
Would you rather be the New England Revolution, where you play on the best turf in a football stadium, or the Portland Timbers on one of the worst turfs, but in a soccer stadium?
Is there an option C where I just can go without the turf part?
No, you can't criticize the turf and then say.
I would rather be a.
Or no, you could play it. You could be New York Red Bull and play in a great stadium, and no one's there to see you play.
That's true. Yeah.
So hot sports take. I would go soccer stadium with bad turf, and then pay money to replace the turf, so it's good turf. So
or you could be the New England Revolution and just build a stadium, but they've tried.
Or you guys could save your knees and play on natural grass.
And your ACLs.
Yeah, but also happens to be in your knee.
That is, I find it interesting that MLS carries on with turf when there was a huge outcry for the 2015 FIFA World Cup and playing on turf in the women's game. To me, it sits there. I'm sitting here. I'm going we're going to criticize FIFA for putting on in turf, but for some reason, no one ever wants to criticize MLS for having turf.
I mean, man, how can you criticize MLS when they got that Atlanta stadium that needs turf? I mean, it's one of those. But it's one of those things. It's a give or take. But there's some situations where it doesn't have to be a give or take. It shouldn't be a give or take.
Makes the game awful, though.
It does. I mean, I enjoy watching the ESPN feed of Atlanta and their turf because it looks so bad on camera. It looks so bad on camera.
At least their turf doesn't have a giant M at the center of the field in Minnesota across the 6-yard box.
You're building a stadium, so there's really nothing to cry
real grass,
about.
With natural grass.
Natural grass. That's all that you need.
I mean, I think Austin Stadium is going to have grass, right? Oh, wait. Too early?
Too early. We'll talk about that in a future episode. Back to MLS, guys. Is there a team that seems intriguing? I think Toronto FC is great. They suck. There's something going on with them. Everybody's saying, everybody's, give them time, blah, blah, blah. No, they kind of suck at the moment. They surrendered the 3 points. They literally decided to just give them to Columbus. Here, take 2 points away from us. We will put sorry to cut you off.
I think the most interesting team in MLS right now actually is Columbus.
Why?
Just because of, well, first and foremost, they have relocation kind of looming over their head. I mean, that's as a player, that's got to be a lot to carry on your shoulders, knowing that you might be in Austin next year and might have to relocate your family and have all your belongings down there.
Yes, but I don't think that's that big of a deal across the league. What I find interesting is the players are for sure talking about it. If you saw Josie Altidore's tweet on, I don't know who commented, but bring your ring to the World Cup, and he goes, "I'll see you in." It was a Columbus fan, and he says, "Well, I'll see you in Austin." There is chatter, so I think there's a real possibility that this club goes to Austin, and I wonder if players don't really, at least outside of Columbus, don't really mind them going to Austin or wherever.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you really wouldn't care unless you're involved in it, right?
Well,
yeah. It's one of those things where you're like, oh, well, let me to Austin. Who cares? Like,
yeah, you think if you're Jesse Zardes, who potentially could be moving 3 times in 2 years, from LA to Columbus to Austin.
But the thing is, I don't think Austin's that bad of a city. I think it's a better city than Columbus.
Yeah, but how do the players know if they've ever been? You know what I mean? It's kind of like one of those things where, you could say Madison's a great city because you live in Madison, but that doesn't make it, any more attractive than living in Dallas or I don't know. I mean, you don't know until you know.
No, but
that's home for those players too. They're not living in shacks or they're not.
No, they're not living in shacks. But the problem is, they have a club there that is good on paper. They have scored. They have defended well. They're in the playoffs. They're probably going to make another interesting run in the playoffs when time comes. But I just can't believe these players are still playing the way they are. I guess it's more personal pride. I'm sure that they have bunkered down and they have done their best ability to ignore the noise and play for each other. Not play for the city, not play for the fans, because the fans haven't turned out. Every time you walk out of that of the stadium and you see only 9,000 people there.
I don't blame the fans for not showing up.
Agreed. I don't blame them either. They're put in a really tough spot. I think we've mentioned it on the show multiple times before. When you're put in a tough spot like that, where do you support a guy who wants to move your team, or do you support your team? It's really tough. I honestly, if I was in their shoes, I don't know what I would do. I mean, at that point, you're kind of just like, do I go support the guy that wants to move my team and
give him my money?
Give him my money, because look, in my eyes, I know we're going off on tangent, but with all the Austin news, I really want to hit home this. In my eyes, Precourt wants to leave. Precourt's done. He's not staying in Columbus. It's over in Precourt's eyes. I think in MLS's eyes, it's over too. I think MLS, they threw. DeGarber mentioned Cincinnati and Columbus as something. Dude, he wants to go to Austin. He sees it as a potential market.
Well, it's not the potential. It's the fact that these new clubs have done so well. It's the fact that the new clubs have done so well marketing wise. I tweeted something from the Uncle Sam Soccer Podcast looking at the marketing ability of clubs. The best at the time of this article that came out in 2017. I don't remember who it's by again. I think it's who does the TV stuff, the TV ratings. The big name.
Nielsen.
It's something. Yeah, Nielsen had done a study. They look at the marketing ability of clubs. The best clubs were, I think, NYCFC, Atlanta United, and Orlando. And this was in 2017.
And DC.
Out of all clubs. DC, right? So, I guess Wayne Rooney makes sense all of a sudden. That signing and the marketing ability with that. Throws a wrinkle into that. But too bad we didn't get a list of all the clubs, but Austin, to me, offers MLS a chance to revitalize one of the original clubs. It sucks for the city of Columbus, no doubt, but MLS sits there and says, look, we can flip them. They're not. I think they're going through all these originals, these 1.0s, and they're going to try slowly to rearrange the cards to I don't know, breathe some air into these clubs. Dallas is getting a facelift with the stadium in the U.S. Hall of Fame. I think Colorado is going to be next. They're going to have to do something to Colorado.
Yeah, but why can't these ownership groups? Why does it take relocation to revitalize these clubs? Why can't the current ownership market the team better in the city that they're in? Why does Columbus need to go to Austin to all of a sudden be a more better marketed team, if that makes sense? Why can't they do what Kansas City did? Why can't they do what SKC?
You're right, but it's the shortcut. It's the easy ability to go, look, it's going to cause... The problem is, outside of Columbus, do any of the MLS fans really care? Do we really care that one team's getting relocated? It's not our team. The NBA seemed to do just fine when the Supersonics left for OKC.
I mean, the outrage will be at the beginning, but like you mentioned that, I mean, the only people that really talk about the whole Seattle Sonics are Seattle fans, right? Yep. I mean, when you talk, the only people that really talk about St. Louis to LA is who? St. Louis. And San Diego to people talk about it, and I think there will be an initial outrage because I personally think it's probably going to happen. It sucks for Columbus fans, but I think it will happen. But I mean, after it'll probably die down and be something of the past. But here's the thing. I mean, hopefully Columbus uses energy and puts it maybe towards like a USL side or something like that. And maybe when the day comes that they can that there is a open system that they can move up and come to MLS, and it'd be like Wimbledon MK Dons,
Yeah,
like something like that. I mean, my thing is, I just think MLS is just dead set moving to Austin. There's more they think there's more potential in that market compared to Columbus. They've seen how Columbus is done. Precourt's like, I want to go somewhere where there's more potential to be a bank. They release beautiful stadium renditions. They want to invest so much money into this area. I don't see anyone turning back. And like I said, I think on Wednesday, I think the less chatter there's the more likely it's going to happen. I think they're running into logistics issues though in Austin. I think that's something Jake touched upon on Wednesday's show. But at the same time, I think they'll just get it done and they'll end up moving them. Jake, what do you think?
Well, Jake, I'm going to give you the final word here, but I just want to let the listeners know we're going to put an episode together really focusing on the Save the Crew, the introduction of FC Cincinnati, and the team, I guess, going to Austin. We're going to get people from each city to really talk to us about the issue and kind of get their perspective. And
a special episode, yeah.
Yeah, a special episode focusing on that because we could go on for hours. Jake is against the move. I'm borderline pro the move because I see MLS's...
Borderline, huh?
I see MLS's... I see the green. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. It sucks for Columbus, and it sucks that they're losing a team. But I see the... If you look at the plus and minuses, I see more plus than minuses going to Austin. Armand, where are you on that line? I
mean, I can see why it's being done. I don't want it to be done, to be honest. Even though stadium rendition, I'm a sucker for those. It looks beautiful. I think I'm more on I think it's going to happen, but I'm not necessarily in support of it, if that makes any sense.
So you're on the borderline of don't want it to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I hate seeing teams get relocated because it opens up Pandora's box. I mean, we're probably going to talk about it in the next episode, but who's next?
Yeah, that's true.
Let's go through. Who's next? Because I know sure as hell it's going to be Colorado. Or it could be Chicago if that USL team opens up that stadium.
There's no way they're going to get rid of Chicago. That
there's something to that. There's no reason USL needs a 20,000 seat stadium in downtown Chicago.
Something's
there's
up.
Something to that. Well, there's smoke, there's fire. Something's going on there. That's They're not just no. I mean, come on. What they think they're going to just recapture what Cincinnati had in the USL and just draw 20,000 people to a game when there's an MLS club 30 miles down the road? Come on.
Well, I do want to add context to listeners saying I might move to Austin at some point, so I'm kind of pro the move so I can have an MLS team in my backyard. So
you selfish. But Jake, what's your final word?
We got to move on to the counterattack with Jake Watroba.
Yeah, the counterattack. Okay. I don't even know what my last thought is on this. I have so many thoughts on this. One, it doesn't make it, to me, just on a TV revenue standpoint, it doesn't make any sense for the MLS to essentially swap the 32nd market in the country, Columbus, for the 39th market in the country, Austin. Based on what, ticket sales? Is that basically what we're going after here? MLS has a problem in generating TV money, and I don't understand why you would move from a slightly larger market to a smaller market. It doesn't make any sense to me. Two, the reason why I don't want to see them move, in my lifetime, I have seen the Minnesota North Stars NHL team that was up here before the Minnesota Wild relocate to Dallas. A few years after they relocated to Dallas, what did the Stars do? They hoisted the Stanley Cup. That pretty much gutted the people up here when that happened. The North Stars were kind of woven into the fabric of Minnesota, state of hockey, that whole bit. And I just don't think that's right that these teams are just going to uproot and move somewhere else and kind of just forget about the people that supported them for the last, in Columbus's case, the last 20, 25 years. So it's a hard decision. I'm anti-movement.
But Jake, fair point. Anyway, let's get to the counterattack with Jake Watroba.
Fast-paced, shifty movement, brilliant skill. It's the counterattack with Jake Watroba.
It's counterattack time on Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast. Steven and Armand, I got two topics today. We're not going to play a game.
Boo.
No! Sorry to break your hearts. We got a tweet here from Brian Sciaretta. There's been a lot of debate in MLS about foreign coaches and domestic coaches and how how foreign coaches can't win in MLS. On May 31st, Brian sent out a tweet, and it goes on to explain, in 2018, there were 6 new head coaches in MLS, 3 hired from abroad, San Jose, Colorado, Montreal, and 3 hired domestically, New England, Portland, LAFC. Combined record for the 3 abroad coaches, 7 wins, 5 draws, 24 losses. Woo. Combined record for the 3 domestic coaches, 17 wins, 9 draws, 10 losses. Guys.
That's a BS stat.
What do you make of it?
BS stat. Why? Okay, first of all, the LAFC hiring of Bob Bradley happened way before the season started. And secondly, he came from abroad. He was not in MLS.
But he's coached in MLS.
I find that bogus. The New England Revolution hiring...
He did.
No, but to me, so what? You coached in MLS. You were abroad. You came from abroad. So if Tata Martino would have coached in MLS for 1 year, gone to Barcelona, did what he comes back, does he count as a foreign coach or does he count as a domestic coach?
Well, what nationality is he?
I guess he'd be American. I mean, are we talking about nationality or are we talking about experience-wise, foreign and abroad?
This is definitely nationality. And to be honest with you, I'm not surprised, but I mean, also those 3 teams at the
rosters blow.
They suck. They're bad. They're not good.
San Jose sucks. Colorado sucks.
Sucks.
Who's the
and
third?
Montreal.
Montreal blows.
San Jose and Montreal weren't. If memory serves me correctly here, San Jose was a playoff team last year.
Yeah,
in Montreal,
with a minus 36 goal differential.
Yeah, in Montreal.
We all know San Jose wasn't good.
Just was on the outside looking in the Eastern Conference. Colorado, I'll give you that. They were.
But teams get better and they got worse. I mean, they had the worst goal difference. I think whatever to make the playoffs.
Wasn't it minus 21 or something like that?
It was like minus 21. They were awful.
Okay, well, how good was New England last year?
Terrible.
How good was LAFC last year?
They didn't exist, but they had.
There you go.
But no, wait. They had the entire time to complete a roster together. They had Atlanta to base it off.
They didn't complete the roster until 2 weeks before the season started, though.
Yeah, but they had the option of sit there.
End of February.
They had an option of pinpointing every player they wanted and constructing it. It was literally like doing it in a lab. That's the huge advantage of being an expansion club. They got the chance to be like, okay, we have all these rules we have to figure out, but at least we're in a lab. We're in a laboratory. We can construct whatever we want from it. Okay. Colorado, it's not like they can flip the roster overnight. Also,
Colorado is pretty bad.
Hey, they suck. Move on, Jake.
I'm moving on. Your expansion point's bad, by the way. I'm not going to... That's terrible, because look at Orlando. Ooh. Look at Minnesota. Both have been...
Just wait on Minnesota. Did you not say Minnesota was going to pump in some money once they get the stadium?
Soft launch, hashtag soft launch.
Yeah, soft launch FC. That still doesn't change the fact that they've not been a very good team since coming into MLS. Same with Orlando. Orlando even pumped in money into their team.
Jake, I hate to interrupt you guys. So, on just a really random note, just make the answer quick. Do you guys think Cincinnati will go through a soft launch because they're starting in 7 months?
Yes. No, because they have the fan base there. They're not the fan base.
But they won't move into the stadium for 2 years, and they're starting within the 7-month turnaround. If they were smart, they would start the behind the scenes stuff earlier, anticipating this. But
maybe they have.
I feel like it's gonna be a Minnesota 2.0.
I don't, because I think there's more expectation to do well. They're one of the best teams in USL.
You act like Minnesota doesn't have fans. Minnesota that has so much soccer culture.
No, it does. But how good was Minnesota?
NASL
first and foremost. They were just kind of like a mid-table club, I guess.
Okay, so
they won a soccer bowl a few years ago. But
FC Cincinnati is one of the creams of the crop regarding USL.
Did they win the championship last year?
No, that was Louisville.
There you go.
Boom. All right, moving on.
But they got the furthest in the U.S. Open Cup, and look what that did.
Who cares?
We gotta move on. This is a counterattack. It's quick pace. It's shifty movement. We gotta. Come on, you guys, reel it back in. Next topic from Dan Laletta, managing editor of EqualizerSoccer.com. Dan, on June 1st, reported that the NWSL is close to announcing an expanded TV rights arrangement. Looks like a few Lifetime games could be shifted to an ESPN network. Guys.
Yes.
How big would it be for the NWSL to be on ESPN?
It wouldn't be on ESPN. It would be on ESPN Plus.
I would say ESPN
That's my
Plus.
assumption. I think it has to be ESPN Plus, and I think it's a great move because, like I said earlier in the year about the USL being on ESPN Plus, it'll make me want to watch it because I'm already on ESPN Plus, just watching cornhole. So might as well just watch NWSL instead.
Cornhole outrates MLS apparently. No, it'd be a huge move in regards to people who have MLS Plus. ESPN Plus. And who like soccer, it's good. It's just easy marketing. Here, watch our domestic women's game. It's good. It's a great product.
Did you guys know what network had NWSL matches before I told
Lifetime did. I know Lifetime did because I watched the game on there once. I think my mom had it on that channel or something, so I turned it on. I was like, oh, there's soccer. I think the championship was on Lifetime. That's all their national broadcasted games are on there. It's kind of it kind of threw me off when I first started. I was like, oh, they have it on Lifetime, like the show.
I kind of think it's dumb to have it on Lifetime because it's not a sports network. Are you trying to market to women or are you trying to market to sports fans?
I'm pretty sure trying to market to women.
Well,
right?
They should be marketing to sports fans, and to kind of build off of the ESPN Plus, if that's where they're moving towards. Think of how much even if it's on ESPN Plus, think of
it's good.
How much exposure they can get off of, like, if they're on Sports Center now, or even if NWSL scores are at the bottom ticker, the ticker at the bottom of the screen on ESPN. How much more exposure is that?
It's
huge.
Think
about that.
It'd be good for the women's game. It's needed for the women's game. They don't need to be on I don't know what Lifetime does, whatever that channel does. They need to be on a sports network where you watch sporting events, where sporting things happen. That's where that belongs. Because
I agree.
You can market to women all you want, but it seems like a majority of sports fans seems to be guys, especially who watch ESPN. I mean, if you look at sports radio, the key demographic, everybody says it's 18 to 55, and it's males.
I mean, my thing is this. I mean, I feel like on Twitter, I see a lot of support for women's soccer, but it doesn't really translate to, like, real life, you know? Like, you know that whole argument with how the women should get paid more than, some people believe the women should get paid more than the men's national team. I see that argument all the time, but I don't know, the support for that doesn't translate. And I think part of it has to be, like, who would expect a soccer game to be on Lifetime? Like, come on, people know who Lifetime isn't all like those, like, sappy, like, soap operas and stuff like that, like those, like, shows.
Don't ask me. Like, I really don't know.
I know because I changed the channel.
Their Christmas movies are pretty lit, I hear.
But I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you're looking for it, it's easier to, like, find it on an ESPN Plus or an ESPN because that's, like, already programmed in your brain. That's my go-to to sports, ESPN Plus. Lifetime, like, come on, man.
No, it's true.
It's true. Find that game like that.
It'd be great for the women's game. It's needed. It's an obvious dumb move.
Well, I'm glad we all can agree on that. So,
I'm just saying, if I move to Austin, I want an MLS club there. I'm going to be selfish. I'm just telling the viewer now, the listener, at me, at Steven Jotter, and at Uncle Sam Soccer Pod.
No, don't Uncle Sam. It's at Steven Jodrin. My phone isn't blowing up because there's notifications from people getting mad at you. They can get mad at you on your personal account, not on Uncle
at
Sam.
At Amadka5 for nap games.
Nap games.
And at Jake Watroba for Save the Crew.
Yeah. On a serious note, I never got your opinions on TFC because I wanted to bring them up. Do you think they're in trouble? Yes or no?
No.
The West is bad. They're fine.
The what? They're in the East.
Wait, I thought you said PTFC. Sorry. Toronto.
Who's
man,
PTFC?
Portland.
Oh no! Why would we talk about Portland?
I hate y'all
because they were in the counterattack. Like, you know, come on.
Well, just cut the show. Cut the show.
We like to be MLS fans here. Toronto will be fine. Toronto's will be fine, I think. Orlando is not making the playoffs.
Okay. Hot takes from Jake Watroba, who often find those hot takes to be too soon. Too soon. # too soon at Jake Watroba. Until next time. Support local soccer campaign will be starting soon, so check that out on Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast.